Okay, this is my next project I got going here. It's a table that I'm going to build for my daughter, Daniel. I just moved her down to Indianapolis a couple months ago, and it's going to match the design that I did for her a couple of years ago. I made a end table and a coffee table similar to this. I can show you here. Hang on. Okay, so here's the coffee table. It had a field, which was, this was solid. But what we ended up doing here, I'm showing this as everything is stained, but we ended up painting the legs and the framework underneath it black, and the top we stained and put a finish on that. So that is basically what I'm doing here, but I'm not going to have the short frame. In other words, I'm dropping this down to use this as a field here for a shelf. So these boards that are filling that field are going to have a bit of a gap between them, and I'll determine the width of the boards after I get this frame built, what I want to do there. And then the top is just a basic top with a breadboard edge on it to keep it flat. And that I do know is going to be 36 by 22, and then it'll have a 1-inch overhang all around. So you can see here. It's kind of a side view. The front and back will be just determined by whatever way you put it in there. So pretty simple stuff, really. Straightforward. But the one thing that I want to determine is whether I'm going to use dowels in this joint here or mortise and tenon. And then for sure I think I'm going to use mortise and tenon here. Possibly dowels, I guess. I'll see when I get to that. A couple of dowels in the center. But you got to give that shelf room to move, or that slat, I should say. The way I'm doing this, that slat has to be able to move. This particular one on the end is going to be tight to the end and float this way only toward the inside. The other ones will float both ways, in and out on each edge. And I can show you that once I get to building it. But this shelf will be, or this top will be held to the framework with just some S-clips. Probably 2 on each end, and maybe a couple on each of the sides here to allow that thing to float in and out as well. So that's it. Let's go down into the shop and start building this baby. Okay, I've got this leftover slab from the last time I built some tables for my daughter. And out of this slab I've got to get 4 28.5-inch legs, about 2 by 2 square. This thing measures 2 inches now, so it's going to be a little less than that, probably 1 7/8 inches or so. But I got a live edge here and a live edge on this side as well. What I'm going to do is I've got this piece of scrap Baltic birch. I'm just going to screw it to the one edge, use that as my straight edge to rip off some of this junk on this end here. Or I should say this side. So I'll be able to now butt this up against my fence, use this as my straight edge, and I'm going to take off about a ½ an inch or so. You can see on this side here. You got it all. I hope we can see that right there. It's all bark, and I'm going to take a ½ inch and see where I'm at anyway. And if I have to take some more, I will. So let me get things going here. We'll rip this edge off. May have to, yeah, I'm gonna have to. I'm gonna change blade. Well, I don't have to change blades, but I am gonna change blades as long as I have to take it off. My blade stabilizer on there won't let me get a deep enough cut. So. Ended up pretty good, except for just a little bit right here on this end. So I think if I take off another quarter, I'll be all right. I want to make sure, though, that I've got enough material to do what I want to do here. They're pretty much going to have to come out of the middle of this. Oh yeah, I've got plenty. I've got this big knot here I got to worry about. I got a knot down here. So I'm just going to take another quarter off and we should be fine. Okay, that's good. Now I can remove this and use this edge to get my rough cut here. I want to take it to about 10 inches. Maybe I might even go a little further than that. We'll try 10½. Okay, so I still have a little bit of a knot there. I took most of it, you can see here. Most of it's gone, but I got that little bit right there. But now at least I know where I'm at. So, I think what I'm going to do, it's kind of a shame to rip it all down, but I'm going to have to, I think. I'll end up with some leftover blocks. I could cut it to length here and here. But I think what I'll do is I'll cut it to rough width and then take the best piece out of it that I can get. So I'm going to rip them at 2.5. I'm going to rip them right at 2 inches. This measures just under 2 right now, so 2 will be pretty close. With a spare one if I need it. There you go. I'm going to take and rough cut these to about 32 or 33 so that I don't have to worry about snipe. I'm going to joint 2 faces, run them through the planer, and then we'll come back and see. Okay, I just ran the 2 sides, and I also ran some setup lines here, if possible, that I'm going to possibly need. So I've got 3 of those, and it is so nice. I tuned up my joiner the other day. Probably been a couple weeks now, but the blades are sharpened, and boy, oh boy, it's just amazing. I'm neglected I had that thing. These went across there just beautifully. So I've got them marked here. You can't see it. I've got like a white pencil on them. This side and this side have been jointed square. So I've got the two sides that are squared up. And then now I'll just run them through the table saw. Get them all sized up here, and then we'll run them through the planer. All right, back in the planer, and they turned out just great. You got 4 sides that are square, and they're all the same height, or same dimension, I should say. Square. I guess that says it all. They're square. So I can rotate them and end up with the same thickness either way. One thing I will show you here, I don't know if I did or not, but I marked them 01 and 02, which is off the jointer. Those were the sides that were on my joiner. And then they were ripped with that face against the fence this way, and then I ran them through the planer the same way. I never jointed or ran this side through the planer. This was just jointed, so that kept everything in the proper orientation and kept everything square. One little additional comment, I guess, for you. What I ended up with here is just just a fraction over 1.75 inches. I mean, it is so close that I'm going to call it 1.75 inches. So 1.75 inches square, that's what my legs are going to be. All right, I've got these oriented the way I want them. These are the two front legs, front face, and then the sides and the backs. This is the back legs, the two sides, and then the faces are oriented the way I want them. So I'm just going to make a square here. And now I know this is the way they're going to be done, and which way to lay out the mortises. So this is going to be front left, front right, rear left, rear right. I'll mark those a little bit better once I can stand them up. So, but now you understand what I'm going to do here. So I know now where the mortises are going to go. You know, they're going to go on this face, these two inside faces, these two inside faces, and these two inside faces. So that'll keep me oriented in the right direction. Yeah, one more thing here that I put better marks on, but this end is square. This is the bottom, and then I left the top run wild, so I've got about 4 inches long on the top, or 4.5, something like that. Anyway, when I get to laying out those mortises for the top, everything is going to be measured from the bottom here, but that gives me a little more meat behind that top mortise, and I'll show you what I mean here in a minute. This piece here represents the stretcher. They're 2.5 inches wide by 3/4, and this is where it's going to land on this leg, and then I need to decide. I've been kind of thinking this over. Right now it's centered on the leg, and I kind of like that. I can round these edges over. I'm going to round them over anyway, but round them over a little bit. Soften it up. But I think I'm going to center them because they need to be mirror images. And so wherever, if I were to have this at 1/4 inch, let's just say offset, then the mirror image has to be done to this leg, 1/4 inch from the same direction. So if I go half, it doesn't eliminate any error really, but it's just going to make it easier for me, I think. Not that it has to be easy. But anyway, that's where the first mortise goes. So it's 2.5 inches wide. I think I'm going to have about a 3/8 shoulder here on each end. So if we make that 2.5 minus 3/4 is 1.75 inches. So I need to come up another 1/2 inch here, and that would be my start line for my mortise, and then I need to establish my stop line. So then the length is 29 inches. Or no, I'm sorry, 28 inches. Let me just slide this out of the way. So if I come up to the top here, I measured my cut line is right here. And I put this in the same, in the same relation right there, so that it comes to the top. Then I can figure out where my start and stop line is for my mortise up here. somewhere in there and somewhere in here. You know, 1/2 inch from this line. But I'm not going to use the line, I'm going to use the cut. And then I'm going to leave this on here, but now you can see right here, this is only a 1/2 inch meat on this side of the mortise, and with all this back here, I have a lot less chance of blowing that out when I cut that, or chop it, I should say. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to lay all these out and get this going here. This is how I'm going to lay this out. This is a tool I bought a long time ago. I don't know if they still make it or not, but it's called Square Mate. It's for a framing square, and it's, for me, I use it as a stop on my long ruler here. So when I want to lay out this mortise here, I'm going to be at 28.5 or 27.5. I'm sorry. So I set it, and I'll make all my marks with this on all 4 sides before I move it. So just keep it parallel. Make my mark. On to the next one here. And there you go. So I'll get the other ones for marking the bottom locations. I'm just going to use my combination square, and then to mark the outside, I'll use another combination square. Let me get them marked out, and then I'll show you my results here. All right, there you have it. The mortises are laid out on the bottom as well. And then these two will mate like this. And then the other combination is this way. And then you can see that these are all lined up as well. So that's done. Now if I can cut my mortises as well as I can draw my lines, I'll be in business. So anyway, I'm going to leave these alone for a while. I'm going to work on cutting material for the stretchers, and then we'll come back. Alright, I got my boards for the stretchers milled up here. These 4 stayed pretty flat and true, the short ones. The long ones, the 3 middle ones here, you can see stayed pretty flat and true just by the way they're buttoned up to each other. But the 2 I made an extra one because this one, when I ran it through the planer, you know, it was flat on one side. But as soon as I took that edge off the other side, she went curving on me. And then this one is an extra one I made, and that's not quite so bad. So I'll probably end up using these 4 and dealing with this when I put it together. So that's what happens when you start playing around with the wood. And even though this wood has been in my shop for months, that's you still release some of that tension when you playing off that excess that you had on there. You know, this was this is how thick they were, and this is how thick they are now. So I took off a good 1/8. Yeah, probably an 1/8. So they're about 13/16 or just a little over or a little under, but they're strong 3/4, small 13/16, I guess. So anyway, that's what I got going for those. I got those done and ready to go. I'm I'm going to take the sawn edge and run it over the joiner one time on each of them, and then we'll be ready to go to work.